everyone. Welcome into Reality Check, baby. What is going on? I am Matt O'Leary. I'm joined as always by my good friend Jeremy, aka Jets Chaos. Jeremy, we have a new offensive coordinator to talk about for these New York Jets. How you doing?
Big day. Lots to talk about. Really excited here.
That was an electric intro. I thought you had more. Big day. Really excited here, and then just stopped. That was
I mean, Matt, just when I think it's another wasted year, no chance of the playoffs, another year of not making the playoffs, they go and prove me wrong, and here we are, and we're a playoff team now, baby.
Oh, gotta love it. I love it. Jeremy out here with a little sarcasm today, I'm sensing.
No, but I will tell you this as an initial reaction. It is not, there's no justification for a negative, terrible, this is not the shit show that the defensive coordinator hire was. Like with the whole Wink Martindale and then what the hell just happened because now you're magically, you just totally switched direction on the so-called plan. And now all of a sudden you're going to call defense and you have to go back and tell this veteran defensive coordinator that you're interviewing that he's not going to get called plays. So of course he walks away. That whole show. This is a lot more of a, you could say whatever you want. People can not like the hire, but this is not a throw things in the air and frustration and anger and screaming and yelling or anything like that. There's nothing wrong with this hire, especially when you're the Jets. And who did you expect to take the job anyway?
Yeah, and it felt like that was the number one guy they were targeting after Tanner Engstrand was relieved of his contract. It was down to the final three, which also included Darrell Bevel and Greg Roman. It was a little bizarre, right? Like they announced that they did in-person interviews with two of them, and it was Bevel and Roman. And I'm like, what the hell happened to Frank Reich? Apparently he was on vacation. They bring him in yesterday, and then he was hired this morning. So they kind of took an ass backwards route here, Jeremy, but they ended up getting the guy that they wanted all along.
Yeah, I think they landed okay in this. I don't know if any of it matters. I mean, the odds are that this whole staff might be gone. I mean, there's a strong possibility that Frank Reich, you might be looking at the interim coach by midseason. Sure. I'm not saying I think that's going to happen because is he really going to do it again and fire a coach midseason? I don't know. If we're as bad as we were last year, maybe. But again, it's just you'll see people try to attack it, right? But those people will have attacked anything we did. Like if this is going to be, this is another embarrassing thing and it's so ridiculous and it's such a pathetic franchise. If that's going to be the reaction to this, then there was no hire that would have made that person happy. Like this is as to me as good as we could have expected for the situation that we're in, right? I mean, it is what it is. At least, there was a few years ago where people were screaming for this guy because we wanted somebody who could develop quarterbacks, right? Like people were screaming, why can't we get a guy like Frank Reich? It's a little late. It's 3 years later, but here he is. But again, I don't know how much of it's even going to matter, right? I mean, it's only going to matter if they turn the ship around, if they start winning and doing well. That's the only way it's going to matter. And right now we have no quarterback and we have so many holes. And right now things are so bad. It's really hard to envision a world where that's the case, that they're going to start winning and Frank Reich is going to be relevant. In most cases, it feels like he's just a 1 year guy that we're going to get to know for a year and then he's going to be gone. Unless the offense plays a lot better. The defense is terrible. They fire Glenn and they consider him as head coach. I don't know.
I mean, is there a world where he's coaching this team in November? That's not the craziest outcome, Jared. I think we have to be honest with ourselves, right? Like if you told me that 6 months from now, that's what's going to happen. Okay. Yeah, I get it. Like it wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world. I obviously hope that's not the case. I want this to work out for all parties involved. I don't think it would be fun to go through another coaching search and, have a legendary guy like Aaron Glenn come back and it failed this badly. Looking at Frank Reich, I'm a little worried that maybe he's past his prime here a little bit. His last good year calling plays came in 2021. In 22, the Colts offense was really bad. He got fired in the middle of the season and they finished 27th in yards and 30th in points. And then he gets a job immediately right away in Carolina. And Bryce Young is the number 1 pick for Carolina. And he doesn't even make it through the year. And that offense finished 32nd in yards and 31st in points. So like I'm kind of like shrugging and going, well, like what's the plan here? I know this is a veteran established play caller. He's done it before, all that, like totally understand it. But I think it's a valid concern to bring up how the last couple of years went with him as a play caller.
Yeah, no, you got to look at that. You got to consider everything, It's hard, it's difficult. It's hard, like to separate certain things. Like I liked him on Hard Knocks. When he was on Hard Knocks.
Oh, sure.
He appeared to be a really good coach, a really smart guy. There was a time where he really looked the part. Like the Colts looked like, like it looks like he was doing a solid job. But then you point out on paper, how did things end and where did things end up? And, I think we all just that's all we have is numbers to really judge. I think there's more behind the scenes than just the record and how the offense played when you're judging these coaches, because there are circumstances that you only have so much control as a coach, right? Like if a guy drops a pass, for example, you can't change that. We watched the Steelers, John Harbaugh get pushed out because his field goal kicker missed a field goal. If he kicked a field goal, he was a coach at least another week. If not, would have kept his job. So there are things that are beyond somebody's control sometimes. So sure. Like that we can't see. I just think that Reich is, compare him to Nathaniel Hackett.
Okay.
So there's levels. Like it's not, at least it's not a circus with him. At least he's held that head coaching position. At least there's competency like the results might not have always been great, but at least there's competency. At least he's a competent coach. And I don't know if he might be the only one.
Can we talk about that for a brief second here before we came on today? The Arizona Cardinals, who recently hired former Jets offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur, made his decision on the offensive coordinator of his own, which was Nathaniel Hackett, who was the man who replaced him, Jeremy, in 2023. You can't make this up.
The first thing I said to you is this is a joke. To me, it's like a parody. It's like, hey, we mistakenly, and people will argue this, and I don't care, mistakenly scapegoated Mike LaFleur, in spite of the fact that anytime he had a quarterback not named Zach Wilson, it was the best offense we've had since 2015. But decided we needed somebody to blame, so they shipped him out. The Rams, of course, are smart, so they saw a smart guy and they grabbed him. Now he gets to be a head coach. Now I'm not so sure he's so smart anymore, because then he takes the guy who replaced him, who was terrible, who reminded us why we shouldn't have fired him to begin with. I don't get it. I really don't. I don't know. I feel like it's a joke. How do you hire Nathaniel Hackett as your offensive coordinator? I'm glad we have Frank Reich when you compare it to that.
That's true. And obviously LaFleur is going to call plays, but it was still bizarre hire out of left field. Wasn't expecting that. So something always ties back to the Jets. Figured we'd mention it here for a brief second. Fletch chimes in with the super chat saying, anyone rooting for Reich to become the interim head coach is rooting for the Jets to lose next season, because that's the only way it could happen. I don't know anyone who's rooting for him. I hope Fletch didn't interpret what I was saying as I was rooting for Frank Reich to take over as interim head coach.
Rooting's a strong word.
Yeah, it's just like if they start, and I don't want them to, but if they start 1-6 next year, would they pull the plug on it? And he's the only one on the staff, at least as of this moment, who's been a head coach before. So that'd be the obvious choice if there was an in-season firing for someone to take over.
Look, if we're 1-6 and we're getting blown out by teams, Woody Johnson caves to pressure, or it feels like he does. can you imagine what this fan base is going to be doing if we're 1-6 and getting blown out by 25 points? There's going to be people screaming, yelling, copying him, and just flipping out that he's terrible. He's going to be ripped apart by the New York media and the press, and Woody might just say, I need to end this and get him out of here. And if that happens, it's obviously going to be it's going to be Reich. But are we rooting for that? I'm rooting for them to win 15 games. Well, screw that. I'm rooting for them to win 17 games.
Yeah,
I mean,
what are you, a big fan? You want 2 losses, Jeremy? Come on.
losses. I'm rooting for them to win 17 games. I mean, like, we're Jets. I mean, I'm a fan. I'm rooting for them to win until something happens, unless it gets to the point where it's out of reach, and then you're rooting for a more long-term type of thing. But we have to be realistic here, right? And reality is maybe it'll feel a little bit better when we do get a quarterback, depending on who it is. And maybe we'll feel better when we get some free agents, whoever that is. And then we make those draft picks, maybe we'll look at the roster and feel a little better. It wouldn't be the first time it's happened to this fan base. That's kind of our MO, right? We're at end of the year, we're all pissed. This franchise sucks. Then we go through an offseason, get a bunch of draft picks, and we're all excited and we're all full of hope. But what's different this year is, I mean, the majority of this fan base has no faith in Aaron Glenn whatsoever. That's the difference.
Yeah, and I get the frustration. I really do from the fan base. Like, we're tired. You just want to see wins, and it's frustrating when you have a season like you do, and they desperately need to win games in 2026 and take a tangible step forward in order for this regime to keep their job. So it's going to be a very exciting offseason with the money that they have and all the draft capital that they have to see how they go about rebuilding this roster.
I'll tell you, Frank Reich is a offensive line guy. He's a guy who values having really good protection, really good for his quarterback. He likes big, tall, strong quarterbacks, strong arm, big guys. Like he likes that, that profile, and he likes good offensive lines. Like really puts a lot of emphasis on offensive line. If you look at him in the past, on teams that he's coached, like the Colts, and we've talked about Lindenbaum.
Yeah.
And we've talked about him being the free agent that we like. And I wouldn't be surprised if Frank Reich is in the room when they're looking at that list of free agents saying, hey, that's the guy I want. Let's build
I wouldn't blame that at all. And, Tony, the GM's in here saying pretty much the same thing, saying, judging from Wright's quarterback history, you'll have a 6'4" plus pocket passer. I mean, that seems to be
I know what Tony is thinking. Tony's thinking this guy's going to draft Drew Aller.
Maybe. I don't think it's going to be as high as what Tony would probably take him, but maybe.
Yeah, another guy that I know Tony likes, that's a big, strong quarterback that fits those descriptions, is Sawyer Robertson, Baylor.
Okay, from Baylor. Yeah, he's not quite he's 6'3", I'm pretty sure, but Aller's a big guy. It's not a huge quarterback class. Like a lot of the big, like Ty Simpson 6'2", Nussmeier 6'1". Trinidad Chambliss is 6'2", I believe. Yeah, 6'2". I mean, we were joking. I don't know if you tuned into Talking Jets last night. We spent a lot of time poking fun at 5'9" Diego Pavia. I don't think he's necessarily going to be the draft pick for this offense.
And right. And remember, Frank Reich wants a pocket passer.
Yes.
It doesn't mean he doesn't want a guy who's mobile. It doesn't mean it's not a nice bonus, but he's not prioritizing mobility over passing. He's not taking a guy who's like, basically, I think what we're saying is it would be hard to imagine him choosing based on his past and the quarterbacks he's succeeded with. It's hard to imagine him chasing a guy like Kyler Murray. It is.
No.
Because it's not the type of quarterback that he's had success with. It's not that. That's not the profile of of a Frank Reich quarterback.
No, absolutely not. And something else that I think we could talk about, and we'll spend more time on like what that might mean for who the Jets are looking at quarterback as we go on throughout this show. But if you look at when he had the most success in Indianapolis, his rushing offense was very strong. And Jonathan Taylor had some really nice years under him as the head coach. So I'm wondering what that would mean for, again, potentially trying to retain Breece Hall, or if they go in a different direction than Breece Hall, them still trying to, as you mentioned with Tyler Linderbaum, like building out a strong offensive line. So that could be their identity of a run first team.
Yeah, I think that he definitely, that's why I brought up Tyler Linderbaum earlier. Like, I think that he definitely may have taken the job. Even what he may have, I think, like if he looked at the Jets roster, the most appealing part of him taking that job may have been Membu and Fashanu and Tippmann, right? And like, oh, they have the core of a good offensive line, and they define, Aaron Glenn at least likes to say, our running is our brand. I
Right.
think that sneakily is Frank Reich's thing. Even though he's a former quarterback, I think he builds around the strong running game, control the line of scrimmage, control, have a dominating running game, make your quarterback better. Nothing helps your quarterback more than having a great running game.
Cam Bam chimes in, said Reich had praise for Anthony Richardson. Thoughts? I really don't think a reclamation project like Anthony Richardson would make the most sense. Now he has the height, but he is clearly not a pocket passer. His rushing ability is part of what makes him, attractive as a prospect. Huge arm, just incredibly inaccurate. That's someone who has all the tools, but just can't put it together and be an NFL quarterback. It seems like that to me.
Well, they showed it. Like, he can't read what the defense is doing. That's why he got hurt. Like, he just can't see what you're supposed to be able to see. They can't afford to do a reclamation project. They just can't. Like they're gone if they do. Right? It's like you have to be in a situation where you have a year for that to fail or look really bad and then take a while to get good. By the time Anthony Richardson is not going to magically come back now and suddenly be a good quarterback. If there's any hope of him being a real quarterback, it's going to take time, and they don't have time. They're going to get a quarterback that can come in and start the next day and be ready. That's why a move for Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Like that's, I see Wentz, I think that he's going to try, even Andy Dalton, he's going to at least, not that these guys are good, but he's going to at least go for guys that know how to play the position, right? Not that you're hoping to teach how to play the position.
Yeah, and that's why I think Kirk Cousins, assuming he's released, would be a legitimate candidate for this position. And not that I'm the biggest Kirk Cousins fan, especially at this point in his career, but there's not a ton of great options to begin with. And number two, I agree with you. I don't think this regime can go down the road of a reclamation project like they just tried to do with Justin Fields, and they saw how that worked. I think they're going to look for a higher floor, like a Kirk Cousins or Marcus Mariota or Jacoby Brissett or Andy Dalton, someone of that ilk. And not that they're exciting, not that I'm saying if the Jets bring in any of those four names that I just listed off, that I'd be, talking about a 9-8 season and them ending the playoff drought, but just trying to put the pieces together of what I think the style of quarterback they would be looking to add would be.
Yeah. No, I think that it's like, I don't even know, because we're just going based on, some of his past. I don't even know if it's factual that if Aaron Glenn said, we really want Kyler Murray because he thinks that's the guy that's going to save his job, I don't know that means automatically he's going to stop it. You know what I mean? Like we're assuming right away we're going to get a Frank Reich quarterback, but it might not be the case. We might end up getting whoever Aaron Glenn says we're going to get, with Moogs.
IHYIC says 2 firsts for Stroud. Would you do it?
2 firsts for Stroud. Would you do it? No, I don't want Stroud. I mean, I would take him for free and give him a shot, but I'm not giving away all kinds of capital for Stroud. He's going in the wrong direction, man. He's trending the wrong way. I don't want any part of that. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's better than anyone we have or have had. So, I mean, two things could be true. Yes, he would be as good as anyone we've had, probably, arguably. But at the same time, you're going to give 2 firsts and put your whole future in a guy that literally is regressing, right? I mean, he's getting worse.
Yeah, that would scare me a little bit. I'm not completely ready to give up my CJ Stroud stock. I liked him coming out of Ohio State, and what I saw, I thought his rookie year was really impressive, but have to fully admit the last 2 years have not been very good. This is someone, though, I think, who would play better behind a strong offensive line. I think that's been the biggest issue in Houston, is the rotating cast of characters they've had on that offensive line. But we can't deny, you're 100% right to bring up the regression, and his playoffs in the performance in the playoffs rather was just an abomination.
Yeah. And I don't think the Texans are looking to move on from him anyway, because do they, I mean, They have a good backup quarterback, but he's a backup quarterback, right? So
Right.
the Texans really going to look. I mean, and they might be a little for, not thrilled with Stroud, but like, are they looking to have the problem we have? Because
No.
they would just be adopting the problem we have. Okay, now there's no Stroud, so now we have no quarterback, and yeah, we have 2 first-round picks, but now we have to wait till 2027 because this is a 1 quarterback draft. Like, so they're just adopting our problem, because if it's good enough for them to have 2 first-round picks because they could replace their quarterback next year, then why isn't it good enough for us to just find an interim quarterback, or and then do the same thing?
And get yours yourself,
And get
probably.
us just that you don't have to pay. That you don't have
Right.
to pay tons and tons of money to.
All right. Because Stroud just finished year 3, so he's extension eligible. So you probably have to, if you're trading for him, extend him, which is a scary thought without seeing him actually play for your team.
Right.
Dino chimes in, says Mike White forever. Mike White and the broken rib. I was thinking of Mike White recently with I don't know, all this Woody Johnson stuff that's been circling, and how he said to Mike White that you suck after he played a game with broken ribs. That's pretty classic. Can't make it up.
That's just unbelievable. The guy played. I mean, I wouldn't play football with a broken rib, man. Like, it's like, and I know a lot of people say, "Oh yeah, well, it's money." But no. Like that was unbelievable, man. That was unbelievable. And the crazy thing is like, I always like to believe like a lot of that stuff is nonsense. It's all just rumors, right? None of it's substantiated. The problem is with the Mike White thing, we know it's true because Woody admitted it. So
Yeah.
we can't even get out of that reality that he really went over and said that to him, which is just amazing to me.
Yep. No, absolutely. I'm with you on that. Wanted to go through some comments here and talk about it. Faith Bro, we're just on the topic of conversation of quarterbacks. He says Tanner McKee, Will Levis. Of the two, I think I'd rather take my shot on Tanner McKee than Will Levis. I know Levis went higher in the draft, but I don't think he really looked promising at the NFL level at all. And I don't know if he really fits the Frank Reich bill. He is 6'4", but he's not really a pocket passer. He's very mobile.
Yeah, I don't know if I just think that these are, again, I don't really care about either of these guys if it's doesn't cost us or doesn't harm like our assets. Like, as long as, to me, the most important thing is whoever comes in and plays quarterback, in my opinion, what I would want if I was general manager is it will cost me money for this season, but there's no long-term commitment. There's no long-term money cost, and there's certainly no loss of draft capital. That, you know what I mean? Because we're not ready to win. Like even though we're going to try to win and we're going to try to get the best players we can and we're going to make a run at it, I'm not at this point sacrificing the years after next year to try to pretend I could bring in a quarterback that's going to be the answer of the future. What I'm trying to do is to get a guy like Kirk Cousins, get a guy in here that's not going to be a tremendous long-term cost, that's not going to cost us a ton of capital, that's going to allow us to keep our picks, continue to build up our roster. And if something good happens, that's fine. If it doesn't happen, we draft our quarterback, we use our picks to build up the best possible roster, and we move forward.
Yep. Owen saying Will had a good season with his rookie season, then a bad with the new head coach. I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true, really. He had about the same quarterback rating, an 84.2 versus an 81.2. Yards per attempt was about the same. Completion percentage was worse. The touchdown to interception ratio was better, but again, he threw less than 1 touchdown per game in the 9 starts he has as a rookie year. So I don't think Will Levis is again, that's another reclamation project, Jeremy. I just don't think this.
Right. He might eventually be a good quarterback. He might, but we're not. We have a head coach that is in a position, as far as we know, we have to assume that's on a hot seat. He can't do that. Or it's not that he can't, he's just not going to. He's going to bring in a guy that gives him the best chance to win games now.
Yep.
I don't think he's going to view Will Levis as that. I don't want to put down the thought of, if you like Will Levis, I think that realistically, if you like Will Levis, you're someone who agrees he could be a guy that just needs more time, that they gave up on him too soon, that he could develop, that he could be a good quarterback. And all of that might be true. But realistically, are you going to see Aaron Glenn do that? I just don't think so. I think he's going to take somebody who has past success, who could be ready now, because he's trying to save his job.
Right. For better or for worse, I think, right? Like, you can make the argument that it's not good to have Aaron Glenn because he's going to make moves to try to save his job. And I don't necessarily have a rebuttal to that, because I think it is a fair concern to bring up when looking at like what they would do going into 2026 versus how much they're going to, mortgage their future or whatnot. Like, that is a totally fair criticism.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, I don't see them taking that kind of a big gamble. I think they're going to try to go a safer route with a veteran and then add a quarterback at some point during the draft. I'd be very surprised. I'll say this. I'll be very surprised if at any point through rounds 1 through 7, at least a quarterback isn't taken.
Yeah, I think that going on what you said, the worst scenario for me, I feel, is the worst part about having a coach on the hot seat is what we're talking about. Because, and people will say, oh, what's the big deal? It's one more year, then we'll fire him if he's not good. I think the biggest threat and the biggest worst thing for an organization is when you have a coach that's severe, like on a very hot seat, fighting for their job. The damage that's being done is not just the 1 year that you lose if that coach continues to fail. The damage is that whole offseason that coach was making moves that was not for the best interest of the team long term.
And who knows if the next guy that they hire is going to want to run the same system, and if it'll, if the guys they're bringing in will fit.
Right. So because then you bring in another, like, what if we draft all types of personnel on defense? We were talking about this before in the lobby, for a 3-4, right? Oh, let's take Reese, and then let's take this guy, who's a good nose tackle, and we start building up for a 3-4, and to change up the personnel because they want to play a 3-4. Then you fire them. The whole staff is gone. You bring in a new staff, and they want to go back to a 4-3. You just used your draft picks on 3-4 personnel. So it's a problem. It's like that every year that goes by that you waste with a coach, if it's not going to be the coach, and you have to change the system, that's just a year of possible draft picks that were misused and mismanaged.
Speaking of the former Jets, right, with Aaron Glenn and Frank Reich, Dano says, I can't wait for the Geno Smith reunion discourse. I wouldn't, not saying that I would do it, or I think they're going to do it. I'm saying I think it's going to get brought up. Like, Dano is right to say there is going to be discourse on this, because I think we're going to talk about 20 free agent quarterbacks and every draft eligible quarterback just about in this draft class.
I mean, Geno Smith might come up.
That's what I'm saying.
It might really happen. It's like these reaches are amazing, because it's like, are we really going to sit there and say that what happened his whole season on the Raiders wasn't his fault? Would be the philosophy that, like, I guess it would be somebody who believed it was the situation in Vegas, right, and that you'd still have a chance to get the Geno Smith that was in Seattle.
Maybe. Like, I don't know. It's unfortunately not a very great spot to be in.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you think that I don't believe Geno Smith went from being a functional, pretty good quarterback to being what we saw last year. I can't say that was him only. It may have been a little bit of him. He may have, but I have to assume that part of it had to do with his offensive line and his no wide receivers, and being in just on a terrible team and surrounded by terrible players. So there is a light of hope there. Like, what if you suddenly gave him a good offensive line? You give him Garrett Wilson, and can you get the Geno Smith that played for Seattle back?
Yeah, I think Owen kind of nailed it here. He said, I think you can go 50% Chip, meaning Chip Kelly's fault, 25 Geno, 25 bad line. That's probably pretty close, right?
It's reasonable. Yeah, it's reasonable for sure.
But that's the names, man. We'll talk, Geno Smith and Jimmy G and Mariota and on and on and on it goes.
We're gonna until we get our quarterback, man. This is what it's gonna be, right? It's gonna be the circus wheel of coaches. I mean, like we're getting closer to the free agency, right? What is it, the 15th of February?
March.
Oh,
Yeah. No, we got a ways to go.
ouch.
Yeah.
Why did I think 15th of February? Am I thinking baseball?
I don't know. It is it's still about a month away before free
Oh,
agency.
oh my God.
We'll go through, and when we get closer, we'll go through some more names. I know we did a couple weeks ago talking about the free agents and stuff like that, but yeah, still ways to go there.
Oh, that's gonna be the most exhausting thing in the world then. Like it's gonna be 4 more weeks of us throwing out and yelling out quarterback names and everybody arguing with each other. That's gonna be exhausting.
It's the best.
What I'm saying.
Well, you don't love this, Jeremy? You don't want to do this for another month and talk about every quarterback option under the sun until we're blue in the face?
Well, the worst part, that's fine to talk about every quarterback under the sun. The worst part is the arguing and the fighting and the you're stupid and you're ridiculous and you're ridiculous. And that's the worst part of it. Like nobody's allowed to have an opinion. You can't put a single opinion out there without getting crucified by somebody.
No.
You're not allowed. You're not allowed to have an opinion. If you don't want somebody yelling at you or telling you you're stupid, don't put out any opinions, because I promise you someone's calling you stupid no matter what name you come up with.
We got another super chat here. Thank you, Javier Martinez. I appreciate it. I don't see a comment attached to it. If you drop one in the chat, we'll pull it up. Some already 2027 draft talk going on in the chat. Jack Talks Jets is saying that the Jets need to draft Lenore Sellers. I think his potential is awesome. I get he struggled a bit this last season, but I believe he's QB1. Dude is a stud. He's going to have a chance in 2026 to prove that. I don't think there's a guaranteed QB1 in next year's class just yet, although I'd say Arch is probably the front runner as of today.
Yeah, I would say if you had a gun to your head and had to take one right now, I'm taking Arch in a second. But especially the way he gained momentum throughout that year, started off terrible, got used to the speed of that game, and just eventually, within 10 games in front of our eyes, just totally took over, and started, like, he looked great to me. But Sellers is a guy, like you said, that luckily we don't need to think about drafting Sellers yet. We don't have to pull it, there's no decision that has to be made, because he has a whole full season of college football left that we get to watch him. And I gotta say, Jack, there is a ton of potential there. But if he doesn't improve on this past year, if he doesn't take a giant step forward and show incredible growth, you can't consider him, because you can't have 2 years of college football of concerns and needing to develop. He's a day 3 pick in that case, but it's very common and normal for a guy like him to now come in and be amazing, right? I mean, we see it all the time. Guys in college progress. They get much better each year. And yeah, if he comes out and he's lights out and he's just, takes huge steps and makes great improvement and just as an electric quarterback, you're going to see him as a top 5 pick next year.
Absolutely. Eddie McGuire. Oh, I missed the comment here. We got so many flying in. I clicked the wrong one. Eddie McGuire says Wentz with Indy and Frank started every game in 2021, 3,500 passing yards, 27 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. Obviously, as a blanket, as a whole, over 17 games, not bad numbers, and improvement of what the Jets would be looking at. However, down the stretch, they were really bad. They were 9-6 and lost their last 2 games of the year, and he did not play well down the stretch. And I think someone was saying that the relationship kind of soured. I mean, he was only there the 1 year, and the lasting memory, I think, unfortunately, is the performance in week 17 or week 18 in game 17 against Jacksonville Jaguars from that year.
I mean, Wentz would be here if he's not, because he would be here because there just wasn't a better option.
Mm-hmm.
Like if Wentz ends up being the quarterback, they're going to lie. They're going to say, we're really excited, and we think this is going to give us a great chance to win. They're going to say all the coach talk, but we know if Wentz is the quarterback, he is the best they could do. Like, that will mean it was the best that they could do, right? And I don't think these numbers are horrible, but also you have to, like, the number one thing I'm looking at when I read this comment, and everything about it is correct, but 2021.
Yeah, 5 years ago.
2026, that's 5 years ago. So
And he's been a backup pretty much ever since, and really hasn't been very good. He started 5 games for Minnesota this year. There were a couple 300-yard games in there, but he threw the ball 46 and 42 times in those games and had 4 interceptions in those 2 games too. So like it's going to be that high variance play. He's going to have throws where you're going, oh my God, 2017 Carson Wentz is back. And then the next possession he'll throw the worst interception you've ever seen in your life.
yeah, I can't get out of my head. Frankie from Flatbush did live reactions when Wentz was playing for them. And I just can't get the comments out of my head. Frankie was just tearing him apart. It's like how bad he is. So like he was pointing out all the things he was doing wrong. I mean, then he would do some things that were good. And Frankie would say, oh, look, it's like he decides to play quarterback one play. It's just like from play to play, you don't know who's playing quarterback. I don't know, man. Again, I'm not gonna lose too much sleep over it. Whoever they get at quarterback, like if Wentz is our quarterback, fine, let it be, and we'll see what happens. And if I don't know where I stand, man. Like I don't want an in the middle guy. Like get me a quarterback that's going to make us a playoff team, or just get me a quarterback that's going to get us Arch Manning in the draft. I don't know what to tell you. I can't do mediocre. I can't be on board for mediocre. 5-6 wins and some improvement is just not working for me. That's like to me a disaster. That means we still stink, and we're not. You know what I mean? There's no big huge shine of hope, and we're going to be too high up. We're going to end up being shut out of getting a quarterback. So for me, it's either lose big or win big.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than the middle. The middle's the worst.
Being stuck in the middle.
Stuck in the middle is the worst. It's like that's how you just have the pain drag on.
Javier is back. He says free agent targets for the Jets to get. I know you're a big Tyler Linderbaum guy.
Yeah.
The guy I bring up a lot for the Jets at safety is Cam Curl from the Rams. I like
that.
I think he's going to be this next name I think will be expensive, but if they wanted to go the receiver route, I think Alec Pierce would be a really good threat, really good target as a deep threat. Are there any other names to you in free agency that stick out, or positional groups?
I mean, I think we have to retain, right? First, we have to start looking inside of like we have to figure out Simpson or AVT. Like we got to figure out who's playing left guard.
Yeah, that's a huge one.
My question, like in my mind, I go right to, are we going to re-sign one of these guys and get this done? Are we going to go into free agency and look for a left guard? I doubt we're going to wait to the draft. And, we might draft a guy that we might sign somebody on the cheap, like kind of like a value guy that could possibly play left guard and then draft. But you don't go into a draft needing your starter. You don't put yourself in that position. You shouldn't. No. I wouldn't mind Simpson being re-signed and just checking that box. I like AVT. I like more on a prove it deal. If we can get him on a short-term, low commitment, prove it. Because who wouldn't want a healthy AVT at the worst just to be your number 6 guy who can come in at any position but center?
Yep, and play everywhere.
Like, why would that be bad? But I think that if we don't get those guys, I'm looking at what's the offensive line free market like, because we have to get somebody in that is reasonable. Like we have to get somebody in that's a reasonable left guard. I don't want to just sit there and say, well, let's go into the draft and that's where we're going to get our starting left guard. And we're banking on that.
Yep. I'm curious to see the route that they go on offensive, because they have 4 out of the 5 positions pretty much squared away. You could upgrade Myers theoretically, but he was a starter from last year. They re-signed him. So at least you have those 4. And left guard is the big question. Do you keep one of your own? Do you go the draft? Do you try to go into free agency, external free agency and add? I'm very curious to see the route they take there.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot to uncover. Simpson plays. He doesn't get hurt. Like so far, knock on wood. I don't want to jinx it if he ends up being our guy, but has reliability, has some not the greatest at the position, but there's a lot of continuity there if he stays.
Exactly. Let's get to Tampa Bama. Says Kirk to start, Minshew or Brissett as the backup, Ty, meaning Ty Simpson, I'm assuming, in the draft. That to me feels like the New York Giants approach from last year, where they had Jameis and Russell Wilson, the two veterans, and then, made a play for quarterback in the first round. Jackson Dart didn't start right away, but eventually they made the switch, and it seems to have worked out for the Giants. If they're going to go that route with Ty, I don't think this is the worst approach, because for me personally, I don't think Ty Simpson is ready to start out of the gate. The only, 15 at college starts. I know he's an older prospect. I'm not saying he can't translate to the NFL. There's some things that I think he does well. His pre-snap, I think, is good. I think he needs to work on his accuracy a little bit, but I view him as a little bit of a project. So I would feel a lot more comfortable if they had that level of veteran quarterback to pair with him.
Yeah, my biggest problem with this is a funny thing. It's like I said, it's like I'm not sitting here thinking like it's just a weird offseason, because I'm not sitting here thinking that anything's going to happen that's going to make me seriously believe that we're going to the playoffs or doing anything real. But my problem with this is, if let's say this exact scenario happened, the odds are that Ty Simpson will not play. We can agree on that, right? If Kirk stays healthy,
yep,
we're not going to see Ty Simpson play. Right. So then you go into 2027, and let's say we are in the top 10 still. Let's say, optimistically thinking, we're not in the top 10, but the Colts stink it up. And we have the 5th pick. And there's guys in the draft. Sellers has a good year. You have Arch Manning. You have Dante Moore. Right. So all of a sudden you have a pretty good quarterback class of real quarterbacks. We're not going to take one because we drafted Ty Simpson, a guy we didn't get to see play. That's my problem. Because if then you start, so now you're not going to take a quarterback, and then let's say Ty Simpson stinks, because we've only seen him play, 14 games, 13 games? Yeah, so few starts, under 15 starts. So now let's say that we were just wrong, right? Let's say you miss on him. I don't care if you love Ty Simpson, people. I don't care which quarterback you love. None of you that are over the age of 25 and have been a fan for any amount of years has known every quarterback that's going to hit and every quarterback that's going to fail. None of you know. We've all been wrong. Nobody can predict it. You'd be a millionaire if you could, possibly, somehow, if you can get, I don't know anyone who predicts perfectly.
No.
So you have to acknowledge, as much as you love a prospect, that you could be wrong. And if you're not being realistic. So do you really want to take a guy where, this year, where right before a year where there's going to be more guys that are much higher touted, and put yourself in a position where you don't know if you should take one because you didn't see if the guy you took is good, and then if he isn't good, you've totally screwed yourself.
I think if they did draft Ty Simpson, you'd have to see him at some point this year. So it'd be the veteran starting, I don't know, maybe half the year, and then looking at the second half of the year and getting to Ty Simpson. I think that would be the play.
Yeah, I guess, but you're paying a lot of money for Kirk, for these two quarterbacks that go in front of him. They're not going to be cheap. You're paying a lot of money for a plan that says they're going to be on the bench for the second half of the year.
It's true. No, it's true. But you know what? How about this, though?
What if you're winning some games with Kirk Cousins? What if you're kind of functional? What if you're 4-4?
Can you evaluate in practice, though? So, you could tell in practice if a guy's ready, or in training camp if a guy's ready.
I guess that makes them all liars, though, about Zach Wilson, because all I heard was how amazing in practice he was. Oh, no, the balls don't hit the ground. He's amazing. He's amazing. He's going to be Superman. He's like the greatest thing since chopped liver. And then he gets onto the field, and we saw what we saw. So I don't know. Is there anything like real-time game to judge a guy? Minnesota was convinced that J.J. McCarthy was the greatest quarterback, and he was going to be the next Patrick Mahomes. That's what they were saying. They were willing to let Sam Darnold walk because he was so good in practice. And I'm not saying that the verdict is out on JJ. He might be a great quarterback next year, but I'm just saying it didn't translate this year onto the field.
No, it certainly did it.
So I don't know. I don't know. Also, I feel like Ty Simpson, depending on when we drafted him, I feel is a reach.
Yeah, and I think he's going to go like at 16, I think that's absolutely in play. I'd be surprised if he made it too much further past that point, especially with the Steelers at 21. I think those are the two spots for him, unless there's someone that wants to move in front of the Jets to ensure that they're getting a quarterback who really likes him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I wish there was just more on him. I wish he had more games under his belt. I wish we knew more about him. I wish he would have had a big game against a great opponent, like at the ends. I wish that, I'm not blaming him or saying it's his fault. But I'm just saying I wish he would have rose above it. Like if he's so good, I wish that he could have been the guy that take Alabama, and I know a lot of people say, well, they were terrible around him. I was like, yeah, but great players, like elevate people around them sometimes, and it doesn't mean he's not going to be good. It doesn't mean he's not good. It just means lack of evidence. I just wish there was more evidence that he's good.
Me too. I think that's totally fair. A little different direction, but it's on the topic of free agency. Cam Bam is saying AD Mitchell isn't a bad wide receiver too. We should sign a receiver instead of drafting one in the first or second round. I can't get behind this. I don't think he's shown enough in the 2 years he's been in the league that tells me that he is a wide receiver too.
I mean, I'm a 2-year rebuild, right? I think this is going to be a 2-year rebuild. So I think that with that in mind, you're not going to fill every position. So my attitude on it is if the best player available or the right opportunity comes in the draft, wide receiver is a perfectly sane and respectable thing to do. So like at 16, if Mekhi Lemon was on the board, I don't know if he's going to be, but if he was, perfectly sane pick. Makes total sense, right? 2-year rebuild. Somewhere in the next 2 drafts, we're going to need a wide receiver. This is the opportunity at 16. You get a guy like Lemon and you love him, you take him. If the right guy's not there, then the right guy's not there. It's okay as long as you're taking one of the other positions that we're going to need to rebuild in 2 years. And maybe wide receiver 2 is going to come next year. Because to me, what's the difference? Because if you believe like I do, we're going to only win 4 to 6 games at best. What's the difference when you get them? But I certainly wouldn't say we don't need a wide receiver, so we don't have to take Mekhi Lemon if he's on the board. No, if someone's special, if Tate was to slip, which some people are saying he could, I'm not saying he would. I say no. I say that's one of the positions we need to seriously, we need. And even if Mitchell turns out to be really good, what's wrong with having 3 really good wide receivers?
Yeah, I think it's a big need for this team, and especially even if it's not this year, you're going to need to evaluate a young quarterback soon, right? In 2026 or 2027. If there's a wide receiver like Mekhi Lemon, we talked a ton about, like I have a really hard time passing that up if he's there at pick 16 and pairing him with Garrett Wilson and keeping AD Mitchell. I'm not saying you throw AD Mitchell away. I think he's more of a 3-4 than the number 2 personally.
Right. And I feel like sometimes we talk ourselves out of, like, we all want to be sensible and like, oh, he could be like, let's just not talk ourselves out of special players. Like Lemon, his ceiling is so high. Like, and that's why I don't even think he's going to be there. That's how high I think his ceiling is. I think he's going to be a really great player in the NFL. We've got to stop talking ourselves out of getting special players, good players, like we'll find any excuse. I see Rusty saying he's too small. Did you watch him play? He doesn't play small. Like watch him play, watch his film. He doesn't play like his height. He plays like a 6'4" receiver. He jumps up and gets everything. So who cares?
Yeah, he catches everything. Great yards after the catch. Great route runner. I don't understand the Lemon dislike.
Right. Well, can you imagine at the year of that draft, Jerry Rice, too small?
Well, I don't know. I'm not ready to call him Jerry Rice, but I know the point.
I'm not calling him Jerry Rice. I'm just trying to say when we just it's funny that it's Rusty saying he's too small because Rusty's the guy who likes Pavia or whatever his name.
That is
right. He likes a 5'9" quarterback. He's yelling for a 5'9" quarterback. It's in 50 years in modern football, we haven't had a successful 5'9" quarterback. Rusty's screaming for him, but Mekhi Lemon is too small.
He's not
Can you make sense of that for me, please?
There's more. He did watch him. He's terrible with physical corners and double teams. He's not a first rounder. Even we'll go as far to say not a first rounder.
I don't know what film he watched. I just don't. I don't know what film he watched. I honestly don't. I watch him play, catches everything thrown, anything in his direction is like a vacuum is caught, and his yards after catch is phenomenal. His yards after catch is he is the guy, you know, exactly what you want. The guy who makes the play, breaks the tackle, gets into the open, takes it another 30 yards. He's just what we need. He's just what any offense needs.
If First State JSN is small, he's also the offensive player of the year and leading wide receiver in the NFL.
Right. So yeah. So I mean, I'll just happily agree to disagree. You know, it was, and that's true. Jerry Rice was more criticized for his 40 time, but it's just this, get into the spirit of what I'm saying. Like, instead of being hooked on just a physical attribute that isn't as high as you want it to be, like sometimes you just have to watch the player. Like, yes, the reason why there's any chance Lemon will be there at 16 is because some of those things. He's not, if he was 6'4", he'd be a top 10 pick. Like, fine. That's why he's not even higher. If you look at his stats, his performance, his like the things that he does in football games, the real question is how would he make it to 16 even? That's how good he is.
Yeah. I don't think he will be there at 16. I think it's a dream.
Right. I think it's a dream. Every time I look at it, I'm like, how is it possible that you would even be there? So like, we might be wasting our breath arguing over him.
Right. Which is what First State is saying here. You run the card up to the podium if Lemon is there. Same thing we were saying with Sonny Styles. We can like both those guys a ton. It's certainly not a guarantee that either one of them are there at 16.
Yeah. I think there's a real chance that both of them will be gone. And that's where I come in with what I would hope, if there's a trade partner, nothing you could do if there isn't a trade partner. But let's say the Steelers really want Ty Simpson and they're afraid that they're going to lose out on him. Someone might trade up in front of them or something. Maybe they're afraid we're going to take him. And suddenly they're willing to flip spots and give us some more picks. And we're going to get the same guy at 21 or 20 than we would have at 16. And we pick up a 3rd round pick. Like any kind of opportunity like that, I'm all about it, man. Give me an extra pick. I really don't like the gap between 45 and 103. Like, I really
brought that up a lot, and that's totally fair, right? I wouldn't be surprised if they traded down from one of their 4 spots.
Yeah, I mean, we have so much ammunition, we have 4 spots in the top 44, right? Or like, why wouldn't like, makes so much sense that we would take one of those and say we could trade back a little bit and still get our guy. That would be the belief. You're reading the boards, and if you have that belief that you'll still get a guy or one of 2 or 3 guys that you really like the same, that's when it makes sense to make a trade like that.
Tampa Bama's back saying sign, draft, trade for a blocking tight end. How do you feel about the tight end room? Obviously, Mason Taylor and Jeremy Ruckert will be here next year. I think they need to add one more guy. But where are you at with the tight end room?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the jury's not completely out on Mason Taylor. I still have a lot of belief in him. I think anybody who makes a decision on a tight end, for 2 reasons why you can't make a decision on him. First of all, he was a rookie. And that's a position where we've seen many, many times, that they don't reach even close to their ceiling in their rookie year. Second of all, he played for the Jets. I mean, played for the Jets, right? Who was his quarterback? What opportunities did he have? When they were playing even a little bit okay, the quarterbacks, and he got some games under his system. There was a period of time, I think it was weeks 5, 6, and 7. He was starting to become our number 1 target. And he was actually looking really good. And then we went to Brady Cook, and he disappeared again, right? But pretty understandable. They shut him down. So I just don't think the jury is out on Mason Taylor. I don't think he did anything to lose our trust that he could be good. But would I like to see a proven tight end, another guy in there, to fight for who's tight end 1 with Mason Taylor and be, but definitely Jeremy Ruckert's tight end 3. So you're putting in a guy that's definitely better than Ruckert. I would love that. I would love it. As long as we don't bet, we can't give away all our resource for it, but if we can get that at value, then yeah, I would love it.
And plus too, as we know, this is a copycat league. But look around the league. So many teams now are going with the multiple tight end looks. I think it's important to have, more than one guy that you really rely upon and like.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that it's like, look at Buffalo, Jackson Hawes blocking tight end.
Yeah,
You
to go
know,
with Dawson Knox and Kincaid, who they
yeah,
have.
look how well that worked out. He did a lot of good things for them. And it's funny because we interviewed Jackson Hawes and we loved him and we wanted the Jets to take him. And
I did badly.
of course, half our fan base looked at his stats because they only know how to do one thing, and that's read a box score and say, "Oh, he stinks. He stinks. Look how few yards he has," not understanding that some tight ends are there to block. And sneak out, and they used Jackson Hawes. He caught a touchdown. I saw him catch a touchdown pass. Buffalo was very sneaky, and they had him slide out and catch, and make the play or whatever. It was like kind of a deception. So he didn't blow it. He didn't drop the ball. He caught it. So
A couple more super chats before we call it a day. Next one up is Alice Sell. Says, so we can't let rookie quarterbacks sit for a year because you just said, which I do agree with, but we all saw what happened when you start him too early. What should we do then?
it's a good question. I think that I want to fix one thing I said before. If they love Simpson, if the Jets love him, if they're not reaching, if they absolutely love him and are convinced he's the guy, then fine.
Okay.
But not because they desperately need a quarterback and they're reaching. So I'll correct what I said before. Because what I was thinking is next year when you take a guy like Arch Manning or Sellers, of course you're going to wait a year if you can, right? Or bring him in the middle of the season and not start him for day one. But I was talking from the frame of mind that you were taking a chance on Ty Simpson, not that you loved him. If you absolutely love him and have all the belief in the world, if the Jets believe he's the guy and it's not just a reach because they're desperate, then I guess, yeah, they would sit him and he could sit a whole year. Or if we were losing anyway, you bring him in the last 6 games and you could do whatever you want to do. So I agree with this comment completely.
Darn, Tampa Bama says Washington from the Steelers, maybe talking Darnell Washington. I mean, that fits your blocking tight end. His playing weight's over 300 pounds. He's listed at 264, but he is a mammoth of a human at 6'7".
Yeah.
If he's available, maybe. I think it'd be a good fit. He's not a tight end one, but gives you a little something as a pass catcher too.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. We got 2 years to do this. So if they don't improve the tight end room much, if that's the one that's missed, and we get to see Mason Taylor for another year and see what we really have, it's not the end of the world. But if there's an opportunity, like I know if I'm sitting there and I add a 3rd round pick and Michael Trigg is sitting there from Baylor, it's going to be very hard for me not to grab him. Now he's not a blocking tight end, but man, he's a really, really special weapon. So, I mean, there are guys we all like, right? There are guys we fall in love with when we're prospecting, we're watching these guys in college. Like that's a guy I really like. There's a tight end I really love. And I think if he fell to our lap, you take him. But at the same time, I'm not thinking tight end. I mean, you have to prioritize. And I don't really have anything over the other thing. I just know it's going to take 2 years. Like, I just know we don't have enough picks. And we don't have enough resources that we're filling all the spots anyway. This is going to take 2 years at best because we still have to hit on our picks. But it's going to take 2 years. So you could argue like which of the ones are there out of all the positions we need over the next 2 years? Are there positions that are more urgent that we need year one? I would say maybe like I think like I feel like linebacker or safety has to happen. Like I don't know how we could just play out another season with the back end of our defense being what it is right now.
Totally agree. Totally with you. Last super chat here. Nick is saying, not to be a Debbie Downer, but did we just hire our interim head coach to end next year? We kind of started talking the show there. I think, unfortunately, that is something that very well could be on the table. That would not be the most shocking thing to happen for the Jets in 2026.
Yeah. No, I mean, unfortunately, this is for Boss Girl. I'm going to think positively.
Okay.
I think Glenn's going to do better, and the team is going to do better. They're going to get a quarterback that's a little bit more competent. They're going to draft some guys, and the defense will be a little bit more competent. And I don't know if he'll keep his job the whole season, but I'm going to say he survives the season, and we don't have to have an interim head coach in the middle of the season. So I like Boss Girl positivity.
Ending on a positive note. The coach isn't getting fired mid-season. Love it. Guys, we've reached the hour here on our show. Thank you so much for hanging out for another episode. We'll be back next week, same time. I'm Matt. He's Jeremy, and we will catch you guys next week.